you.
Oh
So what I
no,
did,
don't tell me. We're about to watch a full debate with Billy Carson and Wesley Huff. It did not end well for him, and this is exactly why he doesn't want you to see this video. It's
I guess go first, Billy, as to
False
how
prophet,
you
I'm
came
telling you.
about like the findings where it seems that Jesus was not crucified, or that's not accurate.
The statement is according to the Sinai Bible. Okay, according to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible. That Bible predates the King James Version of the Bible. The text there actually is about 12 to 14,000 differences between the Sinai Bible and the King James Version of the Bible, which came much later. And then also one of the things that were interesting is that they discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary. According to some scholars, that's a little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then, adds more, if that's true, it adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
I really appreciate the fact that you seem to have investigated to a certain degree some of these facts. Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically?
It's the biblical text that was written. It made it into you can actually look it up on Amazon. It's a Bible I have a version at home. It's called the Sinai Bible, right, from Mount Sinai. I'm assuming that's the mountain that they're referencing there. But they put together their own version of the biblical text prior to the King James Version being put out.
Sure. So when you refer to the Sinai Bible, would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus? Like the codex that comes... Okay. That's why I was trying to get some clarification. Because, So you can actually go and see... Codex Sinaiticus is at the British Library. So you can go and see it. It's on display. And the British Library has actually digitized the entire manuscript. So I work with manuscripts in my linguistic work. I'm an expert on early Christian scribal culture, and particularly in Greek and Coptic manuscripts. I actually have a facsimile. So I have a photocopy that was done by the British Library of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He's got the proof.
This was pretty badass when Wesley just turned around and grabbed Codex Sinaiticus.
He's not telling you his opinion or what he thinks. No, he's like, I actually have. Oh my goodness me, he went there
Right off his bookshelf. I think in this moment Billy realized, oh shit, I'm screwed.
Anton,
and
is completely right.
The only reason I asked for clarification is because I want to make sure that what I'm addressing is actually what you mean.
Gotcha.
And not addressing something else. Because the Codex Sinaiticus in particular is just it's a 4th century Greek manuscript. Mm-hmm. It comes from approximately between 325 and 350 AD. And its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. So my curiosity is just simply in kind of exploring when you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there. I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up the end of, say, Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified. And that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or, the John 19, or any of the other ones. So I think my confusion is that it doesn't read any differently. So actually, are you able to pull up a website with the viewers? Or
where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Wow, how convenient, Billy.
Clown
You've gone on
stuff.
some of the biggest podcasts in the world, and you've been saying this garbage since 2017. And you just missed.
And hold on, Anton. I'm going to pause you there so I can show the proof, because I'm here to prove that this man's a false prophet, okay?
This wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically? Refer to the Sinai Bible. Would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus? Like the codex that comes... Okay, that's why I was trying to get some clarification. Because I actually have I have a facsimile. So I have a photocopy of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here. And the only reason I asked for clarification is because Sinaiticus in particular is just a 4th century Greek manuscript. Its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. When you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up Matthew 27, where it has Jesus being crucified, and that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or John 19, or any of the other ones. So my confusion is that it doesn't read any diffently.
Where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing, actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas. Never got crucified. As a matter of fact, the Sinai Bible, Jesus was crucified. Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. But then you go to the Sinai Bible. In the Sinai Bible. And the Sinai Bible. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted it.
According to the Sinai.
Absolute garbage and lying straight through your teeth. How many times did we just hear him say the Sinai Bible on so many different podcasts then? And then for you to be so dishonest and lie about it. How could you trust someone like that? And if you haven't seen Anton's video that I'm showing right now, he describes, because it's a 2-hour long video, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and do that for you guys from 2 hours. I want to push you guys to his channel so you can go and check it out. The comments ridiculous, okay? 3.2k comments 5 days ago. I mean, this is the most viral video he's posted. Why? Because it's true. You don't want to know why the truth goes viral? Because the truth is true. The lies temporarily go viral. We're going to carry on watching, by the way. There's more. Look at that. There's more. So we're going to carry on watching. But the lies temporarily go viral, but eventually it's exposed for what it is. But let's carry on watching and hear what Anton has to say.
Oh, some of you listening might be like, oh, it's no big deal. He just misquoted. You got to understand, the crucifixion, the resurrection of Jesus Christ is what makes
the main thing.
Christianity legit. If Jesus wasn't crucified, there would be no Christianity. Now, to believe he rose from the dead, that's a whole nother thing. But Billy right here shows you his research is a bunch of crap. I'm basing what Billy said off his own words. He claimed the crucifix was not in Codex Sinaiticus. The crucifix is in Codex Sinaiticus, so he was wrong. Mm-hmm. So he goes, oh, well, maybe it's a different thing. It's the Book of Barnabas. Let's find out what the Book of Barnabas is really about.
Okay, yeah, well, so that's good. So let's deal with that too, because I've actually worked with, there are 2 manuscripts of the Gospel of Barnabas. The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. And so that's why I think it's important to get to these sources. So at the very start of the Gospel of Barnabas, which we only have 2 copies of.
If you go to look up the Book of Barnabas on Google, you can literally find within 2 seconds that it's a fraud. I know how conspiracy theorists think because I used to be one as well. It's not a fraud because of what it says. It's a fraud because of how it's written. There's errors in terms of location. There's errors in terms of spelling and copy. It's not just a fraud because of what it's saying. And if you want to learn about that more deeply, Wesley's entire career pretty much is based around this type of stuff. Can I really trust what's in the Bible?
I have 2 copies of. One is in Italian and one is in Spanish. We see right off the bat that the Gospel of Barnabas, not to be confused with either the Epistle of Barnabas or the Acts of Barnabas, which are 2 apocryphal documents from the 2nd century, but the Gospel of Barnabas in particular, we know it's a forgery because it does things like in chapter 92, it says that Jesus spent 40 days on Mount Sinai and then he came to the Jordan River and he walked to Jerusalem. But Mount Sinai is more than a week's journey away from Jerusalem, and neither Mount Sinai nor Jerusalem are close to the Jordan River. So never mind there not being a route from the Jordan River to like around Mount Sinai or going to Jerusalem. But there are internal problems with the Gospel of Barnabas, which indicate that it shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. It actually says Jesus is the Christ, but not the Messiah, which indicates that whoever the author is, he didn't know that those were the same words.
Same words.
And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno, which was written in 1314. So there's a lot of internal evidences that disqualify the Gospel of Barnabas, never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century, and none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish. But the internal content of the Gospel of Barnabas disqualifies it from being ancient. And then the fact that it's doing things like paraphrasing Dante, or it also refers to a rule of the time of Jubilee, which was changed in the Middle Ages from what it was in the biblical year of Jubilee. And it goes with the Middle Ages concept, not the ancient concept. So I think what I'm getting at is, so I'm a historian, and I deal with sources. So when I'm looking at sources, I want to make sure that I have a methodology by which I approach any type of source. So if there is something that denies the crucifixion, I want to make sure that I'm analyzing it and that the methodology by which I analyze it actually reveals that the content can be accurately tied to the event. So if we're talking about, say, Codex Sinaiticus, that's in the 4th century. Now that is, I would agree with you, Billy, our oldest copy of the Bible in the sense of cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation copy of the Bible.
Right.
The problem is that we have individual copies of all 4 Gospels going back hundreds of years before Codex Sinaiticus. So I have a facsimile behind me of P66. This is a late 2nd century copy of the Gospel of John. I work with this particular manuscript. I can just show the screen right here. This is an almost complete copy of the Gospel of John. And it
Is that the
has the
papyrus
crucifixion.
by any chance?
Yeah, so papyrus is just the what it's made out of.
So material it's on.
I got that from ChatGPT, by the way.
You can see Billy's
Yeah, so
like, what did
I
I
can
get
actually-
myself into,
I have
man?
that papyrus at home.
Oh, that's
Yeah, so I'll show you this. So the documents you actually see on my bookshelf behind me are facsimile papyri that I've made. So when I was in Egypt last summer, I went and I got made for me some papyrus sheets. And so I take these papyrus sheets, which are made from the papyrus plant, and then when I go and I look at actual manuscripts, so I was at the University of Philadelphia last summer, and I went and I saw a document called P1, which is a 3rd century fragment of the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew. And so what I did is I sat down with that original and I produced a facsimile. So I copied the text. First of all, I cut it out with an X-Acto knife in not the original 3rd century one on my papyrus. I cut out with an X-Acto knife this guy, and then I copied the text transcriptionally on the front and the back. So papyrus is just simply, it's what it's made out of.
Yeah.
And so there's categorizing systems, and the standard one is called the Gregory Alland categorizing system. And so sometimes you'll see when manuscripts are mentioned, they'll have a GA and then a number behind it. If it's made of papyrus, you simply abbreviate the word papyrus to P, and then you have the numbering system. So P66, what I showed you earlier, that's this on the categorizing system. It's the 66th manuscript that was put into the system. It's from the Gospel of John. I also have, P46 and P47 on my shelf, which includes all 4 Gospels and Acts from the 2nd and 3rd centuries. So the only hesitation I have with what you said, Billy, is that we have single copies of the Gospels that can be dated to the 2nd century that all do have the crucifixion. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just like, it's not that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than...
If you say it's a known forgery and you're expert, I'm going to go with that. Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit and leading up.
Don't run away.
And Billy just casually admits with Wesley, oh, if you say it's a known forgery, I'll go with that. It's a known forgery. This is very confusing to me. How is it possible that you go on the biggest shows in the world, you've been spewing this lie since 2017, And within less than 5 minutes, you are now on board with Jesus being crucified? Are you gonna retract your statements? No, of course not. And I want you to see the fragility in this man and how he really has no idea what he's talking about and how he tries to confuse you with word salad. Because in this one clip, he told 3 lies. Lie number 1 was the Sinai Bible, which he misquoted. He meant Codex Sinaiticus, has 12 to 14,000 different translations than the modern day King James Version of the Bible. First lie, not true. They're almost identical, as Wesley puts it. Sure, there's some small things, but they're nearly identical. Lie number 2, Jesus wasn't crucified. That's a pretty damn big claim. Lie number 3, the gospel of Mary's wife, or the gospel of Jesus' wife. So, do you see how he throws these things and he stacks them and then he tries to move on? See, I'm glad Wesley was sharp here because he caught Billy. He said, wait, you said this, you said the gospel of Jesus' wife. Let's talk about that. When Billy was trying to jump to the Old Testament really quick. But if you really go sentence by sentence with Billy Carson across all his interviews with Joe Rogan, with Patrick Bet-David, with Andrew Schultz, just go sentence by sentence and look up this dude's claims, you'll realize most of what he's talking about is complete nonsense.
Let's talk about the Old Testament a little bit and leading up into the New.
Well, hold on, because do you mind if I address the gospel of Jesus' wife?
Sure, go ahead.
What was her name?
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
So the gospel of Jesus' wife doesn't actually mention. So oftentimes what happens is that the text of the gospel of Jesus' wife is kind of paralleled with the gospel of Philip, which mentions that that Jesus would kiss Mary Magdalene on the mouth. And so those are kind of used in parallel to kind of for this argument that Jesus was married. So the gospel of Jesus' wife is in the Harvard Library. However, the reason we know it's also not legitimate is because even though the manuscript, the papyrus that it's on, was carbon dated to the 4th century, the text was actually copied from a PDF version of the Gospel of Thomas known as Grandin's Interlinear. And there was a mistake in the Coptic text of Grandin's Interlinear that was copied into the Gospel of Jesus' wife. So we know that this is not a legitimate document, even though the papyrus is ancient, and this happens a lot with forgeries. I have a couple of friends who have actually worked on projects that have revealed forgeries within Dead Sea Scroll manuscripts and within other ancient Christian papyri. But the reason why we know the gospel of Jesus' wife and that Karen King, who kind of vouched for it and she lost a lot of credibility, unfortunately, for her, and she's admitted that it's a fake as well, was because we can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. And the mistake on that PDF form was copied into the text that was borrowed in the phraseology of Jesus' wife. So I just point that out is, once again, with our sourcing, I think we need to make sure that we're going towards not just early sources, but actually credible sources. And unfortunately, neither the Gospel of Barnabas nor the Gospel of Jesus' wife are credible sources in terms of actually, and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the.
There's a woman who's named Karen King. She popularized the gospel of Jesus' wife. What Wesley's saying, he's very smart, so I'm going to help break it down a little bit, is that same gospel, first of all, was found recently, and it was pretty much copied from another known fraudulent document called the Gospel of Thomas. And the reason they know it was copied is because there's an error in the Gospel of Thomas. And that same error is found in the Gospel of Jesus' wife. These are types of things that Wesley studies so that he can debunk and decode what's real and what's not. And Karen King even admitted it was a forgery. And I'm sure Billy could find that, Because when I Googled the gospel of Jesus's wife, lo and behold, within 5 seconds of researching, I was able to see that Karen King admitted it was a fraud.
Wow.
This is very disappointing, Billy.
Very.
I just point.
I wanted to believe in your alien theories, bro. Okay, so this clip is very important to me because it really shows that Billy's way of verification is not rooted in one that a real historian would use. Someone like
It's not rooted in truth. It's rooted in whatever I find I'm gonna say, basically.
Wesley, who talks about internal and external verification. He does not have that process. So to me, this clip really, really speaks volumes because it shows that he really just has a lack of education. I don't think Billy couldn't be a good historian. I actually think he could and he should be because he has a very interesting mind. But this to me revealed everything I needed to know because it just shows that he really doesn't understand that there is more of a process of verification versus just traveling to a site, talking to tribes, reading, cave art and wall paintings and other things he references, and that you actually have to have a methodological approach to even something like oral verification. And he says, well, even the Bible is, oral, and Wesley's like trying to kind of answer him, but he doesn't really get his full thought out. But I still think it kind of speaks volumes, at least for me.
Yeah.
The Aboriginal elders, same thing. They were seated here by Pleiadians. This is their verbal handed down history for thousands of years. And I can go around the world and I can come up with all this information from all these eyewitness accounts from people that should be respected, dignified, and shouldn't be scoffed. And that we're now saying that all this information that they put forward, all their verbal handed down history, all their written history, that's got to go to the side because this one text is 1,000% accurate.
Sure, but so my question is, most of that is oral history, correct?
Oh, it's all oral history, even the Bible.
Okay, so when we're engaging with oral history, what methodologies are you using to confirm that the orality is accurate?
Oh man. Well, first and foremost, some of these texts some of these cultures have written down information in caves. You've got cave paintings. The Dogon tribe actually have not only written down.
Sure. No, I don't disagree with that. The question is one of historic. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. The question is one of methodological analysis. So you have to have a method by which you can find either that something is falsifiable or that there are avenues by which you can show internal and external accuracy of credibility. So this is what we do with documents. This is what we do with the ancient gospels. This is what I do. I've worked on Xenophon and Plutarch, and we look at the internal evidences and the external multivalent corroboration to try to figure out, okay, yes, we have all these stories. Great. I don't deny that. But as a historian, as someone who's trying to figure out what is accurate, how do you know if I use the term verisimilitude, do you know what that term means?
No, but I can tell you this. Tell me how the Dogon tribe saw Sirius B, knew the orbit of Sirius B, a trinary star system, accurately, and can show you the orbit with a special tool that they made that was given to them by these people. How do they know the shapes, the sizes, the colors, and the orbital pattern of all these planets in our solar system and other star alignments that they would use to have something called Ziggy and planet and their own harvesting and planting and so forth and so on? That's not enough evidence that there's something.
Well, I'm not aware of that particular case. And even, I would grant that, the ancient people are far more technological advanced than we give themselves credit for. Just because they're ancient doesn't mean they're stupid. I am well aware, as someone who has done both investigation of the past and done archaeological analysis, that is a reality.
So look, we're talking about the Bible right now. And Billy is trying to bring up something about the Dogon tribe. And like Wesley says, he's not saying ancient civilizations are dumb by any means. Anybody with a brain will know that. But what he is saying is, Billy, you've made some crazy claims about Christianity. How are you verifying these things? And he can't answer it because he's not doing it. It's that simple.
My question is simply, okay, you have these stories or you have these accounts, you're referring to them as eyewitness testimony. How are you going about verifying that as that?
Well, if the people had eyewitness
Crickets.
testimony about Jesus, they then just wrote down their eyewitness testimony on a piece of paper or parchment
Crickets.
paper or papyrus. So these people,
Right. So that's where
some
internal
of
methodological
some
analysis.
of it's actually written down. So I mean, it's the same exact thing. There's really no difference.
Well, no. So you do internal investigations to figure out when something was dated. So something like so when I use that term verisimilitude before, that's something we as historians are looking for. It's a term that simply means the appearance or likelihood of truthfulness. So when you do historical analysis, it's an inference to the best explanation. So you have proof and you have data, and you're extrapolating that data on levels of probability. So some things can be confirmed as high probabilistically true, and other things are lower in their probability that they happened. But there are different methodologies, different ways that you explore historically how that happens.
Well,
So for the Gospels, you look at
with the Dogon tribe. Scientists went there to visit the tribe, and they still have no answers because they used their modern science. They took the best scholars to visit these people, and they're still scratching their heads. Something happened there.
sure.
that
And
doesn't-
and I'm not even denying that necessarily, but the question is, okay, we need different levels of evidence and exploration, not just scientifically, but historically to derive something as eyewitness testimony. Now we have mountains of that, and I'm more than willing to go into some of that with the Gospels as early eyewitness testimony that can be verified externally and internally. But nonetheless, the only reason I ask, Billy, is because I've listened to a fair amount of your content, and I'm unaware of the methods that you use to try to discern between what is an accurate source historiographically and an inaccurate source historiographically.
Fair question.
Well,
Fair question.
I use getting in an airplane and traveling to these places, doing my own research, talking with the indigenous cultures, and researching as much of the text that is available that I can possibly find.
Okay, so I don't dispute that, and I do believe you have done that, but I mean, even from what we've talked about, so you've researched the text, but when we talked about the crucifixion, everything you cited was either, and I mean with all due respect, false in terms of the Sinai Bible, because Codex Sinaiticus is just a 4th century Greek manuscript of the Gospels that we have today, or they were verified forgeries in terms of the Gospel of Jesus' wife and the Gospel of Barnabas.
You may be right on that particular part of the topic, but like I said, that's less than 0.1% of the information that I hold.
This I find very interesting. Billy says that's less than 0.1% of what I talk about. Now, that may be true, like Wesley is saying, but it's not the topic that they're debating, okay? Second point to that is that, in the research of making this video, if I just go to Billy's YouTube right now and I pull up his kind of most viewed videos. So in the top 10 of his main videos that are posted on his YouTube, the one that talks about Jesus and Christianity is right here. Could the God of the Bible really be Satan? Now, these did okay, but his lives tell a bigger story, popular. So, all of his lives, a lot of them have to do with Jesus and Christianity. His top live, 2.2 million views. Could the God of the Bible really be Satan? He reposted that one as a video and got a top view as a main video too. And then he talks about his fourth biggest one. Was Jesus really a student of Thoth, or were they the same person? And I've actually pulled clips for this video, so you've seen clips of these. And then another one, top 5. Did Jesus' brother kill his brother and have sex with his sister? I mean, so here's another one. Is religion manipulating you through Satan and Jesus? And here's another one. Was Jesus a student of Thoth, or were they the same person? By Billy Carson. So, and there's even more. So, there you see, he says this is less than 0.1% of what he knows, and I'm sure that's true, but...
My research and investigation is second to none. I'll stand by my research and investigation against anyone.
It's not 0.1% of what he talks about, clearly. I mean, some of his most viral videos are making these crazy claims, and I think that's the whole point of why we set up this whole debate in the first place. And like I said earlier in the video, you know, you've gone on Patrick Bet-David and you said the same thing.
12, he shows up in Egypt, and we know that's a fact because I take people on tour every year to Egypt, and I take them to the house that Jesus lived in. It's a crypt. It's actually worship. People come there to see that bed that he laid in every single year. When I take people there, we take them straight there. And we know the path that he traveled throughout Egypt because it's a huge sign outside that Coptic church where he lived that shows where he went. Now, when he was in Egypt, what did he go there for? To learn the Egyptian mysteries. Who taught the Egyptian mysteries? Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. And so Thoth was the teacher of the Egyptian mysteries, or the ancient mysteries of what it was called. And then he leaves there and he goes to Tibet to learn Qigong and Reiki healing, which was confirmed by the Dalai Lama. And then he heads down into India to learn the mystic arts, teaching reincarnation all the way back.
You've gone on Andrew Schultz and you said the same things.
Jesus was crucified.
Whoa.
Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible.
What happened?
It
to
doesn't
him?
exist in the book of Barnabas. But they left that out of the Bible on purpose.
You've gone on Nick Cannon and you said the same things. And
Oh, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. I give you all these prayers and verses off the top of my dome because I did them so many times.
Right.
And so, you know, just doing that, it became a part of me and understanding like, okay, well, there's something here. But at the same time, because I studied it so well, I recognized a lot of discrepancies that didn't make any sense to me before I came across the ancient tablets and saw that they were copied from ancient tablets that were thousands of years prior.
and a whole bunch of other podcasts through the
Guys, it's clear to see, okay? I don't want this video to drag and be super, super long. Go check out the rest on Anton's channel because, yeah, this man is just a false preacher, false prophet, like I just said. And he's got deceiving spirits that's working with him. Whether he knows it or not, that's irrelevant. The devil likes it. In fact, the more you don't know, you think you know, is even better because you just keep on pushing his work forward. If you're a Christian, I rebuke this type of content, man. I'm telling you right now, it's not from God or of God. All right. Let me know which video I should check out next. God bless you all, man.